welcome back to our channel. You won't believe the chilling truth behind the case that seemed to have been solved. A man is arrested with all the evidence against him. A dead body found near his home, a troubled past, and a cold-blooded revenge plot. But what's even more horrifying is that the one manipulating everything is the person he once loved the most. Be prepared, because the story below will keep you glued to the end. Tomas never expected that in just a short moment, his entire life could be swept up into such a terrible nightmare. It all started with a seemingly normal morning, when he left the wooden house deep in the deserted land in the suburbs, where he retreated to get away from the noise and chaos of city life. But not long after, the police suddenly appeared with cold eyes and a firm attitude, asking him to stop to serve the investigation related to a serious murder case. Tomas was stunned, not understanding what was happening until he was brought to the scene. On the southern edge of the forest, not far from the house he was staying in, a body was surrounded by police and forensics. Yellow tape was stretched to signal the restricted area, and the air was thick with the heavy presence of death. The body had begun to decompose. But there were still enough traces to identify the identity and determine the time of death. No one knew who the victim was at first. But Tomas immediately felt a bad premonition spread throughout his body. When the victim's identity was determined, Tomas could not believe his ears. It was someone he had done business with in the past, someone he had had some conflict with, but not to the point of hostility. What was even more frightening was that every piece of physical evidence found at the scene began to point to him. From tire tracks near Tomas's property that matched the truck he was using, to a small piece of bloody cloth found in the garage, and even faint fingerprints on the suspected murder weapon found nearby. All of these details combined like an invisible net that was tightening around Tomas by the hour, and he could not refute with anything concrete other than useless assertions of his innocence. The silence of those who had been close to him only made the situation worse. Locked in a cold cell with suspicious eyes and constant media reports that make his name synonymous with the word murderer, Tomas begins to feel the despair gnawing at his mind. But while Tomas falls into the abyss of mental collapse, outside, another truth, a cruel plan, is gradually revealed. And the person behind it all is none other than Madison. The woman who once loved him with all her heart, but was also cruelly betrayed by him. Madison once blindly trusted Tomas, sacrificed everything to be with him despite the objections of her friends and family. But when she discovers that she is just a part of Tomas' love games, abandoned without explanation by him in his most painful and hurt moment, Madison's heart gradually turns to stone and her mind begins to nurture a perfect revenge plan that is chilling. For years after she disappeared from Tomas's sight, Madison silently followed his every move, remembering every person he met, every place he went, every relationship he built. With her calm demeanor and sharp intelligence, Madison had no trouble finding ways to approach easily manipulated individuals, even those with shady or greedy pasts. She began to build her own network, gathering pieces of information that could bring Tomas's life down with a snap of her fingers. She found Tomas' old enemy, a victim who would later be discovered, and through elaborate tricks, she gradually drew him into her plan. After luring him to a secret location under the guise of a business deal, Madison secretly followed him and made sure no one could detect her presence there. She had planned to kill him from the beginning, but in a way that left Tomas as the only suspect. Every piece of evidence, every trace was meticulously placed as if it had been created by the hand of fate. Madison hired someone to steal some of Tomas's personal belongings to use at the crime scene. From the handkerchief with traces of DNA to the piece of cloth in the garage. She also hired hackers to access traffic cameras to erase data that could prove Tomas was elsewhere at the time of the crime. Madison's sophistication and calculation make the whole thing a perfect show that Tomas has no chance of overturning. As the police investigate, every detail fits together so creepy and logically that no one questions the possibility that Tomas was framed. Meanwhile, Madison has been silently observing everything from afar. Witnessing Tomas's despair, being insulted in the press, and gradually becoming a living ghost in her own life. For her, it is sweet revenge for the years of heartbreaking pain. But then, the truth, no matter how well hidden, begins to leak out. An independent reporter named Clara, who has known Tomas since college, senses something is wrong with the way the case is being handled. She begins to dig deeper, from official news reports to forensic details that the police have tried to hide. Clara finds the evidence seemingly too perfect to convict a person without any flaws, a strange coincidence that runs counter to the reality of most criminal cases, which are often murky. She begins to dig into Tomas' past relationships, combing through everyone he's ever had contact with, and eventually, Madison's name emerges as a big question mark. Clara tracks Madison down. Realizing that she's been disappearing for long periods of time, temporarily changing her identity, and engaging in mysterious financial dealings with several individuals involved in the case. As Clara begins to match up the times and places, the picture becomes clearer. Madison isn't a bystander, she's at the center of the whole thing. Clara doesn't stop there. She decides to confront Madison, secretly recording and filming a staged meeting to find a loophole. And in the moment Madison revealed a small detail that was not in any of the investigative reports, Clara grasped the key to turning the case around. By providing all the data to Tomas' new defense attorney, they filed a request for a reinvestigation. Under pressure from the media and new evidence, the court was forced to temporarily suspend Tomas' detention to reopen the case. The police began to expand the investigation in the direction they had previously ignored. And from there discovered a series of violations in the handling of evidence. When all the last pieces were connected, Madison could no longer run away. She was arrested right at the luxury apartment she rented under the name of a foreign investment company, and faced charges of attempted first-degree murder, tampering with evidence, and intentional defamation with the intention to destroy another person's reputation. Tomas, after months of living in the dark and being despised by society, was finally declared innocent. But the psychological wounds he had to bear were not easy to erase. He walked out of prison not in joy but in silence, carrying an indescribable bitterness in his heart. Tomas realized that sometimes the one who destroyed his life was not the enemy out there, but the person he loved the most. The truth was finally revealed. But the price Tomas had to pay was too high. His life was completely turned upside down, his honor was tarnished, his spirit was eroded by betrayal and years of living in humiliation. Although he was exonerated, the psychological scars in him will probably never heal. And Madison, the woman behind that elaborate plot, had to pay the price for the hatred she had nurtured for so many years. Will the truth always prevail? Or sometimes, the evil just needs to be smarter to be able to bury an innocent person? This story is a profound warning that even the people you once trusted the most can turn into the ones who push you into hell. And at this point, are you sure who is real and who is fake in your life? Continue to accompany us to discover other shocking secrets in the following stories, and don't forget to subscribe and follow our channel today so you don't miss any dramatic developments.